This is about the D&D movie. There will be spoilers ahead. I still have a cold, I'm still stuffy, I still sound like shit, but the memory is fresh in my brain damaged mind. So let's go ahead and touch on the D&D movie, Honor Among Thieves. So a lot of people were hoping it would fail, and I get that. Everyone has their biases. Everyone hopes the things they hate or they intend to hate will fail. Now, as any of you will know, I have absolutely zero love for Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. Alright, I was so annoyed by them I made my own game, and it actually got off on Kickstarter. So that's how much hate I have for Wizards of the Coast. Okay, we're going to start there. I have no unrequited love for Dungeons and Dragons. I think it's a basic bitch system. It's got very little going for it. It's just the most popular one. I hate the spell system. I hate the spell slots. I hate the action economy. There's very little I like about D&D. But it is the system we grew up with, so it is what it is. That was the biggest game in town for what, like 30, 40 fucking years. So it's not exactly surprising that's super popular. And the movies have always been shit. Let's be fair here. There have been no good D&D movies whatsoever coming out of Hollywood, to say the least. But this one they played it so safe and kept the jokes so wet, it would have been hard for it to fail. And when I say that, I mean that they really played off of every trope they could. The bard character has this tragic backstory where his wife is killed because he steals gold, and his kid is abandoned and orphaned to a guy because he goes to jail. They're caught in a scheme, yada yada. It's not exactly groundbreaking writing on anyone's part. The only thing that makes it work is the fact that it's wearing a D&D skin suit and walking around like some kind of fucking skinwalker going, look at me, I'm somewhat original. The only saving grace of this movie was the fact it was a Dungeons and Dragons movie. If this movie were a generic fantasy movie, it would have bombed like a motherfucker because it brought nothing new to the table. It brought new inventive writing. It brought nothing out of the ordinary. It didn't break new ground. It actually treaded quite well-worn ground, in my opinion. The difference is that it was a D&D movie, so those who like D&D are going to go and watch it. And to facilitate the entertainment of their D&D crowd, they filled this thing to the brim with member berries. There are like little rust monsters eating metal. There's the Underdark. There's a fat, pudgy dragon. There's chain lightning. You can see it happening. They mention time spells and like little gadgets, and it's just there's nothing really new here. And like they're not very subtle about a lot of things actually. Like there's this paladin character who is super paladinic. I'll leave it at that. And he's very clearly a DMPC. You know, he's there to help the party, guide them towards the thing they need. He's very clearly a DMPC. They're kind of having a nod towards that aspect of the game. There's also a giant trap they set off easily, and then when this giant trap is set off, you know, this Olga has her little halfling husband, and you give him a walking stick. Well, it turns out when you took the walking stick back, and old sorcerer boy saw it. What was his name? Simon. When Simon saw it, he's like, "Oh, hey, that's a hither-thither staff." And apparently, this old walking stick was this like MacGuffin that could help me across the bridge. It's like, okay, you know, it's basically like, oh, you hurt the trap. Well, that walking stick you have is suddenly a magical item. It's like okay, this is like a I don't know. It was very like you can see it coming from a mile away. There's this fucking thing called the High Sun games, which are so fucking stupid that honestly kind of hurts my brain. You have these games where apparently the intention is to just murder the shit out of people. It's like a gladiator ring, but no one survives. And it's just like, this is stupid. Like it's like I love the maze aspect of it, the ever-changing maze, and they have monsters and treasure and shit and mimics running around, gelatinous cubes. So what the joke is here with the High Sun games is they make a dungeon crawl. It's right out in the open. They didn't even try and hide that shit. The High Sun games are a dungeon crawl. They create a dungeon tile map. Okay, check with me here. They make a dungeon tile map filled with chests and traps and monsters. It's very clearly a tile map of a dungeon. And then above them, they're all looking down and moving things around. So they're kind of parroting the Dungeon Master experience with a literal Dungeon Master's cupola above the High Sun games that are moving around monsters and making things happen. So it's like, okay, so they're playing a game of DnD, hee hee ha ha. They do a lot of name dropping, like Baldur's Gate and Waterdeep and all the other. They just toss in the names they know. They toss in names they know players will know. Everyone knows Baldur's Gate. Everyone knows Waterdeep. They're just throwing those things in there because why not? Why wouldn't you do it? Yeah, this rich guy's from Baldur's Gate. People go, oh my gosh, I know Baldur's Gate. And then it's just gonna, you know, they're gonna know what it is. It's basically like a nod to the fans, I guess. An auto slam dunk, if you will. They also, what would Simon say? He said, he was talking to some person, and he said, I got better. And I'm pretty sure that they meant it as just he got better, but you can kind of sort of draw a parallel to Monty Python if you wanted to, but I don't think you really can. It's simply, I got better, you know, like he got better as a wizard. But I heard some folks behind me talking about, like, oh, it's Monty Python. I'm like, you guys are reaching. Like, that's how much they littered this movie with, like, nods and hints and winks. You find them fucking everywhere on accident. Then there's the High Sun games. They bring in the 70s and 80s cartoon characters. They're kind of grown. They're a bit older though. Like the Barbarian Kid's like like a teenager now and all that shit. I'm pretty sure Presto was there. Presto and Eric Cavalier were there. They stand out. They stand out the most. But I'm pretty sure they're aged up. That way you won't see a kid being killed in the arena. So everyone's mad about the 80s cartoon characters being there. It's very clearly a nod. However, it's one of those things where they're last seen in a trap. So they're all trapped up inside the dungeon. And then, like, the big red cloud comes down from the fucking goober chick who's trying to bring back this, like, bring undeath to Neverwinter. And it's assumed, because you don't see it happen, but they're trapped in the dungeon in a cage as a red fog washes over. So it would be safe to say they killed them, but they don't really do the killing. It's kind of like a, maybe they died, maybe they didn't. Whoa. You know, it's very safe and boring. Honestly, like if you're gonna try and kill off, 80s cartoon characters, you just do it. Like, it's a very coward way to do it. Like, oh, maybe they died, maybe they didn't, maybe they got away. It's stupid. I think the only thing I actually enjoyed was like the intellect devourers, or I think they're called something else. They were called something else. They're an Underdark thing. Basically, it's a brain with legs. There's another name for them. But more or less, they like stun smart people and eat their brains. And as they're walking past on this ledge, the little brains on legs don't like really paying attention to them, and they get all insulted. Very wet joke, very wet joke. But it's one of those jokes you can kind of sort of like see coming. You can see the punchline looming in the distance, but it was, funny. There's also this bit about attuning. So it's very, you kind of roll your eyes when that actually happens, but more or less he's trying to attune to this helmet that nullifies enchantments, and he's trying to fight his grandfather or some shit. But it turns out he was fighting himself the entire time. It's like, oh god, fuck off, like. I get it, attune, because in the game, attunement is you wear the thing for like a day or some shit, or a sun cycle or a moon cycle, and you're like, oh yeah, it's attuned now. The helmet's like fighting him and knocking him backwards off his head and shit. It's like, I was just fighting myself the entire time. It's like, oh god, shut up. You should have kept it as his grandfather. His grandfather goes, hey, you're based now. High five. Psst, he gave away the helmet, but no, it's like I was fighting myself the entire time. Simon has a lot of things around him, like that fucking fresh cut grass spell. They do quite a bit of Critical Role dick sucking in this movie. Like they mention They mentioned fresh cut grass like a lot, and it's like of all the characters you could have in a D&D movie, you choose the fucking robot, really. Um, and I'm surprised they didn't shoehorn in like a thing of like fucking Tusklow in there or some shit. But they mentioned like the Nine Hells and the Emerald Enclave and that fucking dragon and that prison. I'm pretty sure was made for the movie, and because I don't remember a Rebel's End anywhere in D&D, so it's very clearly made for the movie. I do like the Star Fort design though. I don't know why they would use a Star Fort design for a prison, but it's kind of cool. A way it remind like I was watching, I got real like Jurassic Park vibes because like they bring in this giant cage thing and it docks up with the prison and like they lock it in place with chains, and like I remember like that raptor scene from Jurassic Park. It kind of got that for me. But what I didn't like was the horse choices. They used Frisians fucking everywhere. They had Frisians running through like a winter landscape. I'm like, oh god, you people in the fucking Frisians. Use proper horses. And towards the end, they find regular, like, I think they're like quarter horses or thoroughbreds. Some kind of warm blood. And then there's like getting another fucking Frisian. Like, leave the Frisians at home. They're useless. No one rides Frisians for fun. Jesus. It's like, God, stop. But one thing is a bit silly is that people get mad about Olga just trashing people. And if you look at the movie as like a basic medieval fantasy, yeah, it would make any sense. But however, I'm pretty sure they're mirroring Olga as a barbarian. Okay, and barbarians are a warrior-like class. Barbarians do that kind of shit. They literally trounce people with fucking stools and bricks and shit. So it makes sense as Olga being a barbarian, just running through fucking people in hand-to-hand combat. It's a bit odd they didn't, make a lot of barbarian-type power nods. She yells a lot, which I guess could be called raging, but they don't really go too far into it. But people are getting a lot bent out of shape. How can a single woman tear apart 14 minute arms? Oh, because she's a barbarian, and there's just barbarians. That's what they do. It's just silly. Yeah, there's a lot of like this movie has a lot of things that only work because it's a D&D movie. If you look at it through a Dungeons & Dragons lens, understanding how the game works, then yeah, a lot of things do make sense. However, if this movie did not have this, if it was not walking in the skin suit of Dungeons & Dragons, it would not work. A lot of things would not work. It's simply by the fact it's a Dungeons & Dragons movie that it saves itself and is able to perform like it is. But I guess now we'll kind of crunch through basic movie stuff. Writing was standard Hollywood shit. Nothing adventurous, nothing dangerous. They played it very, very, very safe. Probably for a good reason. They stacked their bad writing with member berries and hints and winks and nods towards the fan base. So they use that to prop themselves up and make themselves look a little bit better than they actually were. The acting was okay. It was good. Nothing like, oh my gosh, so-and-so stole the show. It was, they were all playing roles. They played the roles. Everything was fine. It was competent, I would say. With their like live action monsters and stuff, they should have taken a page from Star Wars. Their live action monsters are honestly kind of shit. I was a bit disappointed with how they did their live action monsters. Honestly, I think Star Wars, even like the Mandalorian does better aliens and monsters than these guys did. I don't know what production company they used or how taut their budget was for their monster budget, but it could have used a bit more love. And the monsters, like the Dragonkin or Dragonborn, I guess what you want to call them, and the Aarakocra and the giant fish and everything else they have in there, just land really flat. They don't look lifelike. Like comparing the weird orc ogre thing that went to their cell and got killed by Olga, and like the fisherman from Andor. Like the fishermen look lively and real. That guy in the cell looked like he was wearing a suit. It was just bad. It's just really bad. The environments were okay. They should have. If you're in a city like Neverwinter, you're gonna need a lot more extras. and they really skimped out on the extras, to say the least. And overall, the movie is just like, it's a B. You'll go in, you'll watch it, you'll be entertained. It won't be like, oh my gosh, this is the best story ever. Holy cow, I'm gonna buy this movie and name my child Olga. There's none of that shit going in there. But it's just a competent fan movie. I mean, they knew what they're gonna do. They knew what their landing goals were, and they went out and they landed the movie to entertain the fans. That's all it was. There's nothing groundbreaking. There's nothing wowing. There's nothing like really. There's nothing in the movie that makes you want to like rush out and see it. Like, this is if you have like a Sunday afternoon with nothing to do, go see the DnD movie. If not, wait for some Netflix and chill with your lady, and you can give her your gelatinous cube. I don't know. Like, there's nothing really making this movie like, oh my god, it's so good. But it's after the drought of absolute shit movies and there being no good D&D movie, this movie had a very low bar to like hop over. And you know, it cleared the bar. There's no fucking John Wick 4. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, it's just a competent movie. They knew their goals. They knew what they had to do. They knew how to tickle their targeted fan base. They put all the little tickly bits in there. They slurped a dick where they were required to for like Critical Role and putting in Baldur's Gate and Water Deep and Neverwinter and use all the big names, and that more or less carried them across the movie there. But yeah, like B minus, meh. It's a movie. It'll entertain. It might get a few chuckles out of you, but it's nothing to like, you know, fucking cum your pants over. So, anywho, there's your honest review, because some guys are going to go out of the way to hate this fucking thing. Some people are going to go out of their way to prop this fucking turd up. Like, it doesn't matter if you put a turd on a wooden platter or a golden plate, it's still a turd. Okay, so don't go around trashing it because it's in vogue, or pushing it up because it's also in vogue for your clan or your tribe. Just, it's a movie that does movie things, and due to the fact it wore a D&D skin suit, it's successful. That's all there is here. Bye.